I blink, but my eyes don't move. They can't. My body is a prison of flesh and bone, trapping me in stillness while my mind screams. The familiar weight of sleep paralysis presses down on my chest, making each breath a struggle. But this time, something's different. This time, I'm not alone. From the shadows above, a massive bloodshot eye snaps open on the ceiling, unblinking, unwavering, watching. Its pupil narrows as it locks onto me, the air growing thick under the weight of its suffocating gaze. I feel my heartbeat hammering against my chest, desperate to escape. Sweat trickles down my temples, pooling beneath me. I try to speak, to cry out, but my voice is locked away, leaving only the thunderous sound of my pulse in my ears. This can't be real. It's just another episode. They've been getting worse lately, but nothing like this. Never this. The eye doesn't move, doesn't blink. Its gaze bores into me, dissecting me, studying every twitch and tremor I can't control. I feel exposed and vulnerable, hunted. Sophie's steady breathing beside me is both a comfort and a taunt. She's so close, peacefully unaware of the terror gripping me. If I could just reach out, touch her, wake her up, but my arms might as well be made of lead. I've had these episodes before. Sophie's seen them and held me through them. But this is different. This feels dangerous and real. Focus. I need to focus. I concentrate on my toes, willing them to move. The effort makes my head throb, but I push through it. Come on, move. A dull ache spreads through my feet as I strain against invisible bonds. Nothing, not even a twitch. The eye tracks my futile attempts, its pupil dilating slightly. Is it amused? Panic claws at my throat. I need to wake up. I need to move, to scream, to do anything but lie here helpless while that thing watches me. My fingers won't clench. My arms won't lift. Every part of me refuses to obey, leaving me trapped in my own body while that damned eye observes my struggle. Sophie shifts in her sleep, mumbling something incoherent. For a moment, hope flares in my chest. Wake up, I plead silently. Notice something's wrong. Please save me from this nightmare. But she doesn't. She just burrows deeper into her pillow, oblivious to the horror unfolding inches away. I can't take it anymore. I squeeze my eyes shut, blocking out the sight of that unblinking eye. If I can't see it, maybe it'll go away. Maybe this is all just a vivid hallucination, a trick of my sleep-deprived mind. Darkness envelops me, but it brings no relief. The weight on my chest seems to increase, making each breath more complicated than the last. And then I hear it. Whispers. At first, they're so faint I think I'm imagining them, but they grow louder, more insistent. They come from everywhere and nowhere, surrounding me in a cocoon of unintelligible murmurs. My eyes fly open, desperate to locate the source of the sound. What I see makes my blood run cold. The ceiling is now covered with eyes, dozens, hundreds of them, all staring down at me. They blink in unison, a pulsating mass of pupils and irises. The whispers grow louder, becoming a deafening chorus of voices, speaking in tongues I don't understand. Terror grips me, squeezing the air from my lungs. This can't be happening. This isn't real. It can't be. But the eyes, they're so vivid, so present. I can see every detail, every speck of color in their irises. The malice in their gaze is palpable, bearing down on me like a weight I can't lift off. I'm losing my mind. That must be it. The stress, the lack of sleep. It's all catching up to me in one horrific hallucination. The voices crescendo, drowning out my thoughts. They weave themselves into the fabric of my consciousness, distorting my sense of reality. I can feel my grip on sanity slipping away with each passing second. I have to wake up. Now. With every ounce of willpower I possess, I force my tongue against my teeth. The pain has to wake me up. It has to. I bite down, hard. Pain explodes through my mouth, sharp and metallic. For a moment, the world tilts on its axis. The eyes on the ceiling blur, and the voices falter. And then, like a rubber band snapping, the paralysis breaks. I bolt upright, gasping for air. My heart races, threatening to burst from my chest. Sweat drenches my clothes, my sheets. I gulp down air like a drowning man. Each breath a reminder that I'm awake. I'm free. My hands shake as I grip the sheets, trying to ground myself in reality. Sophie stirs beside me but doesn't wake. How? How could she sleep through that? The whispers fade, leaving behind an eerie silence broken only by my ragged breathing. Relief washes over me in waves. It's over. Just another episode. A bad one, but No. My blood turns to ice in my veins as my eyes lock onto the ceiling. There, branded into the plaster like a scar, is a single eye. Unblinking, unmoved, real. This isn't a fading memory or a lingering hallucination. The eye is there, as solid and present as anything else in the room. What the hell is happening to me? The room, once a sanctuary, now feels like a trap. The shadows in the corners seem deeper, more menacing. And always, there's that eye, watching, waiting. I look at Sophie, still blissfully unaware of the nightmare that's invaded our bedroom. Should I wake her? Tell her what's happening? But how could I explain this without sounding completely insane? My hand hovers over her shoulder, trembling. What if waking her makes things worse? What if the eye isn't done with me yet? I pulled my hand back, indecision paralyzing me once again. My gaze darts between Sophie's peaceful form and the evil eye on our ceiling. One thing is painfully clear. This is far from over. Whatever force has latched onto me, it's not letting go easily. And as the adrenaline fades and exhaustion creeps back in, a single terrifying thought crystallizes in my mind. What happens when I fall asleep again? I lunge for the light switch, my fingers trembling as they scrabble against the wall. The room floods with harsh fluorescent light, chasing away the whispers, but not the terror that grips me. My eyes snap to the ceiling, desperate for proof that it was all just a nightmare. But it's still there. The eye is etched into the plaster like some grotesque mural, staring down at me, unblinking, unmoving, undeniably real. My legs buckle, and I grip the nightstand to keep from collapsing. This can't be happening. It's not possible. And yet, there it is, as solid and present as the bed, the lamp, the dresser. Sophie! I manage a faint whisper, my voice thin and fragile. She needs to see this. She needs to tell me I'm not going insane. I stumble to her side of the bed, gripping her shoulder. Sophie, wake up! I plead, giving her a gentle shake. She mumbles something unintelligible, burrowing deeper into her pillow. Sophie, please! I try again, louder this time. But as I do, the whispers return. They start as a low hum, barely audible, but quickly swell into a cacophony of disembodied voices. They fill the room, pressing in from all sides, drowning out my attempts to rouse her. I clamp my hands over my ears, but it does nothing to muffle the sound. The voices are inside my head, worming their way into my thoughts. And all the while, that damned eye watches, impassive and malevolent. Sophie remains oblivious, trapped in sleep while I'm trapped in a waking nightmare. I stagger back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. This isn't happening. It can't be happening. I bolt for the bathroom, nearly tripping over my own feet in my haste. The cold water I splash on my face does nothing to clear my head. I grip the edges of the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Dark circles rim my bloodshot eyes and sweat glistens on my forehead. Get it together, David, I mutter to myself. This isn't real. It can't be real. But when I force myself to look back into the bedroom, the eye is still there, waiting, watching. The whispers grow sharper, slicing through my thoughts like a blade. A scream of frustration builds in my throat, but I choke it back. I can't let this thing, whatever it is, win. I need to cover it up and block it out somehow. I snatch a blanket from the foot of the bed, bunching it in my fists. With a grunt of effort, I hurl it toward the ceiling, praying it will stick and cover that horrific eye. Hope flares in my chest for a moment as the blanket seems to hang in midair, as if caught by invisible hands. But then, with a sickening swiftness, it's swiped away. The blanket crumples to the floor, and a cold draft sweeps through the room, raising goosebumps on my arms. "No," I whisper, stumbling backward. "No, no, no." My back hits the wall, and I slide down it, hugging my knees to my chest. This is impossible. There has to be an explanation. There has to be. With shaking hands, I pull out my phone. The bright screen hurts my eyes as I frantically type sleep paralysis, supernatural entities, and hallucinations. Anything that might explain what's happening to me. Article after article scrolls by, but none of them describe anything like this. Nothing that persists after waking, nothing so intensely, terrifyingly real. A window slams shut behind me, making me jump. The overhead light flickers, casting dancing shadows across the walls. And still, that eye watches, unblinking, unceasing. A soft murmur draws my attention back to the bed. Sophie's lips are moving, forming words I can't quite make out. I scramble to her side, leaning in close. My blood runs cold as I realize the sounds coming from her mouth mirror the whispers filling the room. The same eerie chant, growing louder with each passing second. Sophie's face remains peaceful, serene even, but the words she utters chill me to the bone. "Sophie," I whisper, shaking her harder now. "Sophie, wake up! Please, wake up!" But she doesn't stir. The whispers from her lips blend with those in the air until I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. It's as if the thing on the ceiling, the entity behind that eye, has invaded not just our room, but Sophie herself. I stumble back to the bathroom, splashing more water on my face. As I look up, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. For a split second, I see it, an eye growing on my forehead, staring back at me with the same malevolent gaze as the one on the ceiling. I rub my eyes in disbelief and it's gone. But the image burns in my mind, pushing me to the edge of sanity. I lean closer to the mirror, searching for any sign of the grotesque vision. But my reflection is normal now. Just me, wide-eyed and terrified. A crash from the hallway snaps me back to reality. I dart out of the bathroom, every nerve on edge. But before I can investigate, an invisible force slams into me, knocking me against the wall. Pain explodes in my chest, white hot and searing. It feels like claws tearing into my flesh, ripping and shredding. I cry out, swinging wildly at the air, but there's nothing to hit, nothing I can see or touch. I look down, expecting to see blood, to see the damage this unseen attacker has done. My shirt is stained red, the fabric torn, but when I lift it, there's no wound, no mark on my skin at all. My mind reels, unable to reconcile the pain I feel with the lack of any physical evidence. I stagger to my feet, eyes darting around the room, searching for something, anything I can fight back against. In a burst of frustrated rage, I grab a lamp from the nightstand and hurl it across the room. It shatters against the wall, shards of ceramic raining down onto the floor. But the presence doesn't retreat. If anything, the whispers intensify, circling me like vultures waiting for their prey to weaken. I clutch my chest, breathing heavily. The pain is still there, raw and real, but I'm powerless to stop it. I can't fight what I can't see. I fumble for my phone with unsteady hands. I need help. I need someone else to see this, to tell me I'm not going crazy. I dial Tom's number, praying he'll answer. The phone rings once, twice, 3 times. I'm about to hang up when Tom's groggy voice comes through.
"David, what's going on? It's the middle of the night."
"Tom," I gasp, relief flooding through me at the sound of his voice. "You have to come over. Something's happening, and I don't know what it is. It's real, Tom. It's not just in my head." There's a pause on the other end of the line. When Tom speaks again, his voice is cautious and measured.
"David, are you sure you're okay? Is this another sleep paralysis thing?"
"No," I shout, then lower my voice, glancing at Sophie's still sleeping form. "No, it's not like that. There's something here, Tom. I can see it. I can feel it. Please just come over. I need you to see this." Tom sighs, and I can almost see him rubbing his eyes, debating whether to humor me or not.
"All right, I'll be there in 15 minutes, but David, I'm telling you, it's probably just stress or lack of sleep. Try to calm down, okay?"
I nod, even though he can't see me. "Just hurry," I plead before hanging up. The next 15 minutes feel like an eternity. I pace the room, avoiding looking at the ceiling, at that unblinking eye that I know is still there, still watching. The whispers ebb and flow, sometimes so quiet I can almost convince myself they're gone. Other times so loud I want to scream to drown them out. When the doorbell finally rings, I nearly trip over myself in my haste to answer it. I yank the door open to find Tom standing there, looking rumpled and concerned.
David, what's going on? You look terrible.
I ignore his question, dragging him towards the bedroom. You have to see this, I insist. It's in there, on the ceiling. Tom follows me, his movements slow and cautious, like he's afraid any sudden motion might set me off. When we reach the bedroom, I raise my finger toward the ceiling, my hand unsteady. There! Do you see it? Tom squints up at the ceiling, then looks back at me, his brow furrowed.
David, there's nothing there.
My heart sinks. No, it's right there, I insist, pointing again. The eye. It's watching us. How can you not see it? Tom shakes his head, placing a hand on my shoulder.
David, I think you're exhausted. Whatever you think you're seeing, it's not real. Maybe we should call a doctor or...
He stops mid-sentence as his eyes going wide. For a moment, hope flares in my chest. He sees it. He finally sees it. But then Tom's eyes glaze over, becoming vacant and unfocused. Tom? My voice falters as I call out. Tom, what's wrong? Tom's mouth opens and a low, eerie whisper escapes his lips.
David.
The sound is identical to the voices I've been hearing all night. Tom's face is blank and expressionless as he continues to chant my name in that unsettling rhythm. I stumble backward, my blood turning to ice. The eye hasn't disappeared. It hasn't gone away. It's claimed another victim. As Tom's whispers fill the room, joining the cacophony of voices already there, I'm left staring at my friend, wondering how far the eye's influence truly stretches, and more terrifyingly, what it plans to do next. The mattress creaks and my heart races as I turn to see Sophie sitting bolt upright in bed. Her movements are slow and mechanical, like those of a wind-up doll with rusted gears. The moonlight catching her face only emphasizes the vacancy in her eyes. Sophie, I whisper, but she doesn't react. Her gaze is fixed on the ceiling, on that damned eye that's been haunting us. Her lips move, forming words I can't quite catch. I lean closer, straining to hear.
Watching, always watching.
The words slip out between shallow breaths. A chill races down my spine. This isn't Sophie. Not really. Whatever that thing is, it's gotten to her too. I reach out, my hand hovering inches from her shoulder. Sophie, can you hear me? Nothing. Not even a blink. Then as suddenly as she rose, Sophie collapsed back onto the bed. Her limbs sprawled at odd angles, like a puppet whose strings had snapped. I recoiled, my stomach twisting. What the hell is happening to us?
David, light can't...
Tom's voice, usually so steady and rational, breaks into broken fragments. He's now slumped in my armchair, his head lolling back, his eyes unfocused. I crouch in front of him, fighting the urge to shake him. Tom, look at me. His eyes meet mine for a split second. There's no recognition there, just a glassy emptiness that makes my skin crawl. I wave my hand in front of his face. Nothing. Come on, man, I mutter. Don't do this to me. But Tom's gone again, lost in whatever trance state has claimed him, the same one that took Sophie. I step away slowly, my breast growing more frantic. This thing, whatever it is, it's spreading and growing stronger. I have no idea how to stop it. A flicker of movement catches my eye. I spin around, expecting to see Sophie, but there's nothing there, just shadows. No, not just shadows. Eyes, dozens of them, hundreds. They're everywhere, peering from corners, reflected in windows, staring out from the walls themselves. Each one pulses in perfect sync with the massive eye on the ceiling. I stumble back, bumping into the coffee table. My legs give out and I collapse onto the couch, unable to tear my gaze away from the nightmare surrounding me. They're watching, always watching. The pressure of their collective gaze is suffocating. I can feel them burrowing into me, peeling back layers of skin and bone to expose every fear, every doubt, every dark corner of my mind. I cover my eyes shut, but it doesn't help. I can still feel them, still sense their presence pressing in from all sides. When I open my eyes again, my gaze is drawn steadily upward. The eye on the ceiling has changed, grown. It's massive now, easily twice the size it was before. The iris swirls with sickly colors I can't even name. Its pupil dilates and contracts in a steady rhythm, like a heart beating. No, not like a heart. It is a heart. The eye isn't just watching anymore. It's alive. I stare transfixed as more details emerge. The plaster around it is cracked and bulging, as if the eye is trying to push its way through. Veins pulse beneath the surface, spreading outward like roots. And the pupil, God, the pupil, it's focused on me with an intensity that makes my breath catch in my throat. I can feel it studying me, dissecting me, seeing straight through to my core. Every second I spend looking at it feels like an eternity, and with each passing moment, I can sense it growing stronger. I look for answers on my phone. My fingers race across the screen, frantically scrolling through endless search results. Sleep paralysis, shadow figures, supernatural entities. I dive deeper into each page, desperately looking for anything that might explain what's happening to us. Each new link only fuels my growing unease, but I keep searching, hoping for a breakthrough. Most of it is useless. Vague accounts of dark presences, theories about brain chemistry and REM states. Nothing concrete, nothing that fits what we're experiencing. But then I start to notice a pattern. So many of these stories share a common thread. The people experiencing these visions, these encounters, they all seem to have something unresolved. Traumas, phobias, deep-seated fears they've never confronted. My heart beats faster with every piece I uncover. Some of them describe the entities as feeding on fear, growing stronger the more their victims panic. I lean back, running a hand through my hair. Could that be it? Is this thing using our fear to manifest itself? I think back to just hours ago when I first saw the eye on the ceiling during my sleep paralysis, the way it seemed to appear out of nowhere, feeding off my terror. It makes a sick kind of sense. But if that's true, if fear is what's powering this entity, I stand up, pacing the room as my mind races. There has to be something in my past, some unresolved trauma or buried fear that's acting as a beacon for this thing. But what? I rack my brain, searching for anything that might fit. My mom's death, my strained relationship with my dad, the constant pressure to succeed. None of it feels quite right, but I know I'm onto something. I have to be, because if I'm not... I glance at the ceiling, at the pulsating eye that seems to grow larger by the minute. My legs shake. Every instinct screams at me to run, to hide, to do anything but confront this thing head on. But I plant my feet, clench my fists, force myself to stand tall. I'm not afraid of you, I say. My voice wavers, betraying the lie. The eye's pupil narrows, focusing on me with laser precision. The air grows thick and oppressive. It feels like something is pressing down on my chest, squeezing the breath from my lungs. Sweat trickles down my face, but I refuse to look away. You don't control me, I continued, stronger this time. I won't let you feed on my fear anymore. The pressure intensifies. It's as if the ceiling itself is descending, the eye inching closer and closer. The temperature in the room plummets. My breath fogs in front of me. Still, I hold my ground. Get out of my head. Get out of my home. You're not welcome here. My knees buckle. The invisible weight threatens to drive me to the floor, but I dig my heels in, gritting my teeth against the pain. I'm not afraid. I gasp. I'm not afraid. I'm not. Something inside me snaps. My legs give out, and I crash to the floor, chest heaving. The eye looms above me, impossibly close now. Its pupil fills my entire field of vision, a yawning black void threatening to swallow me whole. I can't breathe, can't think, can't do anything but stare into that abyss as it stares back at me. The room warps around me, reality bending like a funhouse mirror. Walls twist and bulge. Furniture melts away into nothingness. Voices echo in my head, distorted whispers that might be my own thoughts or something far more sinister. They blend together, an incomprehensible cacophony that threatens to drive me mad. I realize with mounting horror that I'm being pulled in, drawn into the eye itself. The darkness at its center expands, consuming everything. My surroundings fade to black. I'm falling, spinning, lost in a void with no up or down, no beginning or end.
David?
The voice cuts through the chaos like a knife, soft and familiar. Sophie. I turn my head, fighting against the disorientation. There she is, standing in the corner of the room. When did the room come back?
David.
She calls again, but something's wrong. Her face is pale, waxen, and her eyes, oh God, her eyes, they're hollow, empty, devoid of any spark of life or recognition. The eye on the ceiling pulses, and Sophie's blank gaze flickers in response. And suddenly, horribly, I understand. This thing hasn't just been watching us, it's been using Sophie, hollowing her out, turning her into a vessel for its will. Those aren't her eyes staring at me. They belong to the entity, to the thing that's been tormenting us. Sophie takes a step forward, her movements twisted and unnatural. I try to move, to crawl away, but my body won't respond. I'm trapped, helpless, forced to watch as the thing wearing Sophie's skin approaches. Sophie, Sophie, please, fight it! But there's no trace of Sophie left in those dead eyes, only the hungry, patient gaze of something ancient and evil. I can't move, can't breathe. Sophie looms over me, but it's not Sophie anymore. Her eyes, God, her eyes, they're empty, lifeless. Two black mirrors reflecting the hostility that's consumed her. Sophie, please. But there's no recognition in those vacant eyes, no trace of the woman I love. The room presses in around us. Shadows writhe in every corner, pulsing with hidden eyes. They're everywhere, watching, waiting, feeding on my fear. I can feel the house itself changing. The walls throb like a beating heart. Floorboards creak and groan under an impossible weight. Even the air feels alive, thick and oppressive, crushing the breath from my lungs. There's no escape. Every exit is sealed, and every window is opaque with something dark and viscous. We're trapped in this nightmare, and it's all my fault. Sophie stands motionless now, so close I can see my own terrified reflection in her glassy stare. I try to reach for her, but my arm barely twitches. My muscles are weak and useless. Sophie, wake up! Fight it! Nothing. Not even a blink. My heart hammers against my ribs. Each frantic beat sends a fresh wave of terror through me. And with each pulse of fear, I can sense the entity growing stronger. The eyes in the walls dilate. The whispers in the air grow louder, more insistent. I'm feeding it. My panic, my desperation. It's exactly what this thing wants. What it needs, but I can't stop. Can't control the primal terror flooding my system. I'm helpless, utterly, completely helpless. And then something shifts. It's subtle at first, a stillness that settles over me, quieting the chaos in my mind. My racing thoughts slow, my ragged breathing steadies. In that moment of calm, a realization hits me like a bolt of lightning. Every time I've fought against this thing, every time I've resisted, I've only made it stronger. But what if I stop fighting? The thought is terrifying. Every instinct screams at me to keep struggling, to resist. But I force myself to be still, to breathe. I close my eyes, shutting out the nightmarish scene around me. My heart still pounds, but I focus on each breath. In and out, in and out. And I let go. I surrender, not to the entity, not to fear, but to acceptance. I stop resisting the presence that's invaded our home, our lives. I let it wash over me without giving it the reaction it craves. For a moment, nothing changes. The oppressive weight still presses down on me. The whispers still echo in my ears. But then, the pressure begins to lift. It's barely noticeable at first, but with each passing second, The crushing force eases. The whispers fade, growing distant and indistinct. I dare to open my eyes. The walls still pulse with hidden watchers, but their gaze seems uncertain, confused. The eyes flicker and waver, no longer fixed on me with predatory intensity. And Sophie, she blinks. Actually blinks. Her rigid posture softens and she staggers backward as if waking from a trance.
David? What's happening?
Before I can answer, her legs give out. She collapses onto the bed, eyes darting around the room in bewilderment. Tom awakens from his trance. Confused, he holds his head as if he's had a bad hangover. I push myself up on shaking arms, hardly daring to believe what I'm seeing. The sinister presence that filled the house is retreating. The eyes on the wall shrink away, fading into nothingness. Even the massive eye on the ceiling, the one that started this whole nightmare, is gone. It's over. We're free. But as relief washes over me, a nagging doubt lingers. It can't be this easy. Can it? Days pass. Life returns to normal, or something close to it. Sophie has no memory of what happened. She dismisses her lingering exhaustion as stress, nothing more. Tom believes he was drunk that night and so happens to think that I took care of him. But I can't forget. Every shadow makes me flinch. Every odd sound sends me into overdrive. I find myself constantly scanning rooms, searching for any sign of the entity's return. At night, I lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, half expecting that damned eye to reappear. When I do sleep, my dreams are filled with writhing shadows and whispered threats. I try to tell myself it's over, that we won. But deep down, I know better. The entity might be gone, but the fear remains. And I can't shake the feeling that it's still out there, waiting, watching. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe this is all just delayed trauma, my mind unable to let go of the terror it experienced. But somehow, that explanation rings hollow. Because sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I swear I see something move in the shadows. And in quiet moments when the house is still, I hear the faintest echo of those bone-chilling whispers. A week after that night, I start to relax. Really relax for the first time in what feels like forever. Sophie is herself again, laughing and smiling like nothing ever happened. The house feels safe, normal. I allow myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the nightmare really is over. I should have known better. It happens on a quiet night. Sophie's already asleep beside me. I'm drifting off, feeling more at peace than I have in ages. And then I hear it, a whisper. So faint I almost miss it. But I know that sound. It's etched into my very soul. My eyes snap open. The darkness of our bedroom suddenly feels oppressive and malevolent. That familiar cold dread creeps over me, settling in the pit of my stomach. No, this can't be happening. Not again. I roll over, desperate for reassurance, for proof that I'm just being paranoid. What I see stops my heart cold. My God, it's Sophie's right eye. It's wide open and it's not her eye anymore. The surface gleams unnaturally in the dim light. The pupil is too large, too dark, and it's fixed on me with the same predatory intensity as the eye on the ceiling. It's back. The watcher, the entity, it never left. As the realization hits me, my body locks up. Every muscle seizes, trapping me in the same paralysis I experienced that first horrible night. The room closes in around me. The air grows thick and oppressive. I can feel the entity's presence pressing down, filling every corner of our bedroom. And then, with sickening clarity, I understand the awful truth. It never needed my fear. My terror was just a bonus, a bit of seasoning. What it really wanted, what it's always wanted, was this: to see how long I could live with it, to watch me struggle and doubt and slowly unravel, day after day, to wear me down until there's nothing left but an empty husk trapped in an endless nightmare. And now it can watch me forever, using Sophie as its vessel. As I lie there, unable to move or cry out, one final thought echoes through my mind: that this nightmare, it is only the beginning.